She only meant it as a joke. If you guess my true name, I'll have to marry you. But when the human pilot spoke the impossible word perfectly, ancient alien laws activated, her life bond sealed. And in the next second, enemy warships appeared on radar, proving her biggest mistake wasn't the joke. It was underestimating him. The dropship trembled as it cut through the thin, violet atmosphere of the border zone. Warning lights blinked lazily along the cockpit ceiling, but neither of the two pilots seemed particularly bothered. They'd survived worse, at least until today. Trelene Vera leaned back in her seat, arms crossed, expression smug. The soft glow of the navigation screens reflected in her metallic eyes. She looked every bit the disciplined warrior her people trained from childhood. Yet the hint of a teasing smile betrayed a different side. "So," she said, voice smooth and confident, "if you humans insist on such plain names, what would you guess mine is today? Lyra? Mina? Kasha? Humans only have 3 name types. I've noticed: heroic, cute, or painfully unoriginal." Captain Aaron Hale didn't glance her way. His hands flicked across the flight console with practiced ease. "You're awfully confident for someone who hasn't heard most Terran names," he replied. "Please," she scoffed. "Guessing human names is like opening a dictionary and throwing darts." He chuckled under his breath. She leaned closer, wearing a grin so teasing it bordered on provocative. "Fine, I'll make it interesting. If you guess my true name, I'll marry you." He finally looked at her. She expected a sarcastic remark, maybe a flustered expression. Instead, he seemed thoughtful, far too thoughtful. Trelene waved a hand dismissively. "Relax, Captain. It's not possible. True names are sung harmonics, layered sound. Only our people can." Aaron inhaled, and then he spoke. Not in Terran, not in trade language, but in harmonics she had only heard during sacred rites, complex tones that vibrated in the bones. Notes that carried meaning rather than words. A sound no human vocal cords should ever produce. Her breath caught in her throat. Her body froze in place as the reality hit her. Her suit chimed, detecting a soul bond initiation sequence, a cultural lock older than empires. He had spoken her name, her real name. Aaron sat back, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Was that close? Trelena's heart pounded like a war drum. She struggled to speak, but the words came out in a whisper. "How did you do that?" No human should be able to. Before he could answer, the ship console shrieked with proximity alarms. Radar lit up with hostile signatures. Aaron's smile faded. "Hold that outrage," he said, switching systems to combat mode. "We've got company." And just like that, her joke became the most serious moment of her life. The ship slammed into the canyon floor hard enough to knock the breath from Trelena's lungs. Metal screeched, sparks shot across the cockpit, and alarms stabbed through the cramped space like knives. When everything finally stopped moving, silence settled over the craft except for the wheeze of damaged engines cooling. Trelene sucked in a shaky breath, forcing her training to the front. Pain later, function now. Aaron was already unbuckling, face set in focused determination. "You in one piece?" She checked her limbs, aching but responsive. "I am, though my dignity took critical damage." He managed a split-second smile before he pushed the emergency hatch open. Desert heat poured in, dry and scorching. Outside, wind carried faint metallic echoes, search drones sweeping the skies. Trelene stepped out, trying to ignore how her body still trembled from what happened before the crash. The soul bond was real, active, linked to a human she barely knew. A man who wasn't supposed to be able to speak her name, let alone rewrite her destiny with a single sound. Aaron slung a survival pack over his shoulder and nodded toward the distant rock formations. "Nearest abandoned relay outpost is 8 kilometers. If we move fast, we can get there before whoever fired on us finds the crash." As they hiked across the blistering terrain, the adrenaline slowly ebbed, allowing fear and anger to creep in. She finally spoke, jaw tight. "How did you do it?" Aaron hesitated. He'd been ready to explain earlier, but the crash shifted priorities. Out here, there was nowhere to run from the truth. My enhancements weren't just for language comprehension, he said quietly. Terran Command wanted operatives who could survive multi-species diplomacy. The program rewired how I process sound. I don't just hear languages. I feel them. Trelene stopped walking. She turned to face him fully. They crafted you. His expression hardened. Something dark flickered behind his usually calm demeanor. They crafted a tool. At least that's what the brass hoped. Before she could respond, movement glinted in the sky. Aaron grabbed her wrist and pulled her beneath a jagged rock overhang just as a drone hummed past overhead. Trelene exhaled slowly, heart hammering. But when the drone disappeared, Aaron didn't release her arm immediately. She realized he was still reading her pulse, checking if she was steady. Protector first, soldier second. We need to move, he said softly. Whoever shot us down wasn't trying to scare us off. They wanted us gone. She followed, but now her thoughts spiraled with new dread. If someone wanted them dead, it meant someone already knew they'd broken a sacred boundary. And the consequences wouldn't just be political, they'd be personal. The abandoned relay outpost appeared just before dusk. Its metal walls half buried in sand. Antennas snapped like broken spears. Lights dead for years. Aaron forced the door open with a grunt, and they slipped inside. Thick dust coated every surface, but at least it was shelter. Trelene sank against the wall, exhaling slowly. The crash, the pursuit, the bond. Too much had unfolded too fast. She prided herself on discipline, yet her pulse hadn't slowed since Aaron spoke her true name. She hated that she could still feel it echoing inside her chest. Aaron dropped his pack and kneeled beside her. You're shaking. Adrenaline, she said, though they both knew it wasn't just that. Her people didn't bind lightly. True names weren't romantic, not in the naive human sense. They were the song of birth, forged from the alignment of star vibrations at first breath. Speaking one was equal parts intimacy and surrender. To have hers spoken uninvited should have enraged her. And yet, she wasn't angry. Confused? Deeply. Scared? Somewhat. But not angry. Aaron shifted closer, watching her with a kind of gentleness that warriors rarely saw pointed in their direction. We should stabilize the wound on your shoulder, he said. My shoulder is fine. He raised a brow. Your definition of fine terrifies me. Despite everything, her lips curved slightly. He removed the armor plating from her suit and cleaned the shallow cut left by shrapnel. His hands were steady, practiced. It struck her how carefully he worked. Not like a soldier treating battlefield damage, but like a person who didn't want to cause an ounce more pain than necessary. When he finished, she took a slow breath. Back there, before the crash, when you spoke my name, something activated. I noticed, he answered quietly. Her voice softened, not weak, just honest. Our bond isn't symbolic. It has physiological consequences. Neural echoes, emotional crossover, synchronized biosignature. If it progresses, the effects deepen. Aaron leaned back, processing. Does that mean what I think it means? Trelene met his eyes. If we stay linked long enough, our bodies begin adapting to partnership. My species evolved that way after centuries of arranged alliances. It ensures survival. He nodded. But this wasn't arranged. No, she whispered. This was a joke I never should have spoken. Before he could respond, a sharp pain shot through her abdomen. So sudden she gasped and grabbed the wall. Aaron was instantly on his feet. What is it? Are you hit? She shook her head, though fear flickered in her expression. No, something is changing, and it's not supposed to happen this fast. Outside, the metallic whine of patrol engines rolled across the desert. And inside, Trelena's world was starting to shift in ways no law or government had ever prepared her for. The cold sweat beaded down Trelena's spine as Aaron half-carried her deeper into the relay outpost. The inner control room still had power, barely. Emergency generators flickered to life, humming like old machines remembering their purpose. Aaron settled her into a chair, then rushed to the console and started pulling system logs. I need to know what's happening to you, he said, voice tight with worry. Probably nothing fatal, she tried to joke, though her voice trembled. Just my biology rewriting itself. He didn't laugh. His jaw clenched the way it did when he was analyzing a battlefield. Expression cold, eyes burning. Aaron Hale did not fear bullets or explosions, but watching her in pain tore something deeper. The console cracked a static line across the display, then rebooted old data files. Trelene watched the screen while pressing a hand to her abdomen as another ripple of discomfort flashed through her system. It felt like her bones were humming, like her body was preparing for something it wasn't ready for. Erin's eyes narrowed. Found something. She braced herself. She wasn't sure why, but every instinct told her she wouldn't like what came next. The first log decrypted, a classified report from the Shindar High Council. Subject Trelene Vera shows ideal compatibility with Terran neural adaptive strains. Recommended candidate pairing. Terran Captain Aaron Hale, Linguistic Project Unit 7. She stared, unable to speak. Aaron scrolled further. The next logs confirmed the rest. Not fate, not chance, not romance, planned pairing. Her vision blurred with heat and disbelief. They selected you before we ever met. Aaron stepped back, expression hollow. They didn't just craft you, they crafted us. She shook her head slowly, voice cracking. I wasn't a soldier to them. I was a breeding project. Saying it aloud broke something inside her. The strongest cadets from her generation had been trained to die without fear, but nothing prepared her for discovering her entire life had been radioactive with someone else's plans. Aaron crouched in front of her, his voice low and steady. Listen to me. Their plan didn't matter. The moment I spoke your name, it wasn't about them anymore. She wanted to believe him. She truly did. But pain, physical and emotional, washed through her again. She gripped the armrest hard enough to dent the metal. He grabbed the nearest medical scanner, activating it. It's not just emotional overload, Aaron murmured. Your vitals are spiking. Something triggered. Trelene swallowed, forcing her voice to stay controlled. When a bond is sealed, accelerated reproductive readiness begins. But it takes time, days, ritual, preparation, not minutes. The scanner beeped. A warning flashed. Hybrid development response detected. Aaron stared, stunned. Trelene, you're changing. Before either of them could process it, the outpost lights flicked red. Motion alarms triggered. Aaron rose, drawing his sidearm. They found us. He looked back at her, eyes full of something raw and unspoken. We're not done fighting. Not for ourselves, and not for whatever comes next. Outside, engines thundered closer, and the first shadows moved against the canyon wall. The outpost shook as the first explosive round hit the exterior wall. Dust drifted from the ceiling, and emergency panels snapped blindly into lockdown. Aaron grabbed Trelene's arm and helped her to her feet. She gritted her teeth through another pulse of biological change. A heat rolling through her abdomen that was beginning to feel less like pain and more like transformation. We have to move, he said. Now. Trelene forced a breath through clenched teeth. There's a maintenance access tunnel below engineering. Relay stations had emergency evac routes in case of collapse. Aaron blinked. You remember that from a manual? I had excellent grades, she managed, voice strained. He flashed the quickest, most inappropriate grin for someone under fire. Remind me to brag about being married to an honor student later. She would have laughed if another contraction hadn't grabbed her midstep. Aaron steadied her, eyes softening with something she never expected from a soldier, fear. Not of dying, but of losing her. Behind them, the wall buckled as enemy troops forced entry. Aaron swept her into the corridor, supporting more of her weight now. She hated feeling weak, but she leaned into him anyway. At the end of the hall, he kicked open a service hatch and guided her down the ladder into the tunnel system. The darkness below was silent except for their breathing and the distant echo of boots above them. Aaron activated a portable glow light, revealing narrow passages and old piping that smelled faintly of grease and dust. How much time do we have? He asked. Trelene paused, pressing a hand to her stomach as her biology continued its accelerated shift. Not long. The bond is triggering full developmental flow. She swallowed. Aaron, if this continues unchecked, I'm getting you out, he cut in. Whatever it takes. The conviction in his voice steadied something inside her. She placed her hand over his, not as a soldier or a strategist, but as someone who suddenly understood why her ancestors believed fate had a sense of humor. They pushed through the tunnels until a faint light appeared ahead. A secondary hangar, small, dusty, but holding a single emergency shuttle capable of short-range flight. Aaron sprinted toward the controls. Overhead, the muffled sound of metal cutting told them the enemy had found the hatch. "Trelene," he said, powering up the shuttle. "We have one chance." She limped up the ramp, bracing against the pain, but her eyes never left him. "They planned our lives," she whispered. "Let us plan the escape." Engines roared to life, and as the shuttle blasted out of the canyon, leaving the outpost and their old chains behind, neither of them knew where the future would take them. Only that, for the first time, it would be chosen by them.